everybody. Welcome to Reading Between the Lines. I'm Sarah, and I'm joined today by my mom, Nicole. Hi, Mom.
Good morning or hello, whatever time of the day it is for you.
It is Saturday for us, and it has been a week. Oh, my goodness. I think there's some sort of eclipse happening soon. If for those who are into the woo stuff, that there's going to be there's just a lot of change happening. It seems like you can attest to that because you've been packing up.
Oh, my life has been topsy-turvy, literally topsy-turvy. We are doing the great closet clean out in anticipation of getting new carpeting throughout the bedrooms of the house. And it's like moving. I'm telling you, I've got to pack up everything in all of the dressers because all the furniture needs to be moved. And they can't move furniture that's full of stuff. And oh my gosh, it's been a lot. But the end is in sight. It's coming on Wednesday. So
yay! Exciting.
Then I get to put everything back.
Yeah. Oh God. Okay. Now talking about books, I wanted to just mention a little shout out to one of our listeners named Lori, who reached out to share about the podcast, The Witch Trials of J.K. Rowling. Last time we chatted, we spoke about good authors behaving badly. Lori wanted to just point out that there's a more in-depth podcast about J.K. Rowling's stance. So I'll just leave that there and everyone can check it out. It is quite informational. It's quite educational. So just something to consider.
If I can interject something, we kind of loosely coined the term authors behaving badly. But in many cases, in this particular culture that we're in right now, people who have a strong opinion on a topic may be disapproved of unfairly. I mean,
or canceled.
They are canceled. There may be more to the story.
Yeah.
Their remarks may have been taken out of context or misconstrued in some way. Mm-hmm. And to say that they are behaving badly isn't entirely accurate. We were talking about authors who were tainted with some sort of controversy. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I'm being tongue in cheek just because I'm trying to get to the point quickly, but you're absolutely right. And so there's a lot more layers to this. One of those layers I'll just talk about. I mentioned my conflict about reading a Neil Gaiman book. I have since finished that book and he has some very serious allegations against him right now. I finished the book and I absolutely loved it. And he also narrated the book. He did an excellent job. I don't know how to feel anymore. I don't know how to feel. He's very talented. I will say that. So anyway,
we all have different facets, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So what is our theme for our wrap up of March, Mom?
Well, today I've got 4 really good books that I read during the month of March, and one book that greatly disappointed me. I had high hopes for it, and it really let me down, and I'd like to tell you why.
Okay. I look forward to that. So I'll have you start. Why don't you go with your first one, and we'll dive in.
Well, have you ever been in a reading slump?
Oh, yeah.
Well, sometimes it takes just a certain kind of book to snap you out of it.
Yeah.
And I've got a great recommendation. And that book is How to Age Disgracefully by Clare Pooley, which was published by Dorman Books last year, June of 2024. This book made me laugh out loud. I mean, like laugh out loud. It was absolutely priceless. The book sets out to show us that your life doesn't need to be limited just because of your age. We meet a cast of unlikely and flawed characters who come together to save the community center that houses not just their senior center, but a daycare center next door, a yoga studio, an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting place, and I guess that's it. There were like 4 main activities that took place in this community center, and the town council decides they're going to close it.
Hmm.
So these unlikely characters band together in an effort to try to save their facility. And here's the publisher's description. From Art, a failed actor turned kleptomaniac, to Daphne, who's been hiding from her dark past for decades, to Ruby, who is a Banksy-style knitter who gets revenge in yarn.
Wait, a what? A what? Banksy?
Banksy is a mysterious street artist in Europe, and he is an extremely talented artist. He's completely anonymous. Nobody knows his real identity. They call him Banksy.
This is a real thing?
Yes, and he paints murals, usually challenging authority and tackling sensitive topics.
I have a book that totally riffs off of that I'm talking about today.
Oh, how hilarious is that? What a coincidence. Well, anyway, look up Banksy and you'll learn more about it. But anyway,
Okay.
this character, Ruby, knits things and places them around town. And she's each character.
That's hilarious.
I mean, and they're all old. They're all in their 80s or even older.
I love this genre. I mean, I don't know what that says about me, but I love like the octogenarian type of
Well, it's
theme.
set in the UK, and I guess you'd have to say it's, current day. So it's not historical fiction or anything of the sort. And Lydia is the woman who's been hired to run the senior center. And she's got in mind that she's going to have some quiet activities, maybe, drawing still lifes or playing cards quietly around a table. But these characters are anything but quiet. So anyway, all these seniors seem to have some kind of secret that they're hiding. They seem, deceptively benign, but there's a lot more to them than appears on the surface.
Wow.
So the seniors join forces with daycare next door to save the building. And there are some absolutely precious daycare attendees that are, under the age of 6 that are pretty great.
Oh, I love it already.
Anyway, the book is about unlikely friendships, new beginnings for sure, and found family, all themes that I really find warm my heart. And like I said, it's a good choice if you've been in a reading slump or you just want to read something that's lighthearted after reading a bunch of heavier themed books. So
I love that.
4 stars.
4 stars. Where did you read this? Do I have access to it?
Yes, you sure do. It's on my Kindle and we share that. So
yay!
How to Age Disgracefully by Clare Pooley.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, I have other things that have been very well received too. One of the titles just before this latest book has to do with a character named Iona Iverson. And I don't remember the exact title, but Iona Iverson is the first 2 words in the title. And that was really good too.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I think I've been leaning more toward wanting to read more funny books. I think you'll remember that back in like 1999, which was 100 years ago, I was really into the Janet Ivanovich books.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Those were hilarious.
Mhm.
And then since then I have matured and those were beneath me and I couldn't read those anymore because they were too silly. Well, now I'd like to read something similar because I feel like I need that right now. So
I think
like
you might really enjoy this author.
Has she read, this is not a debut, right? This is,
No, she's got, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 books out.
Lovely. Yeah, I'm really also wanting to read the Finley Donovan series that you suggested.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's just a kick in the pants. Finley Donovan is just always getting herself into these ridiculous scrapes. Her children are absolutely impossible. She's got a dud of an ex-husband who helps not at all. And
not at all.
They keep dying around her and she somehow gets involved in figuring out who did it.
Oh, man. Well, I am currently reading The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. I'm going to say that again, Leong. Leong. This book has a beautiful cover. I'm listening to it, so I can't show it to you, but please look it up. This
Okay.
was from November of 2024, so fairly recent, and
Mhm.
published by Ace, which I believe is a child company of Penguin.
Oh,
I know this because I have been speaking to Julie, and her publicists have Penguin emails. And Julie is going to be a guest on our show in September.
oh, that's
So
fabulous. Well,
it's really
congratulations. That's
I
exciting.
I know this is going to sound really annoying, but there's nothing better than reading a book by an author that you're enjoying and also have access to that author to like say to them directly like how much you enjoy it. It's really cool. Anyway, this excuse me, this is a debut fantasy. It's very warm, heartfelt, and perfect for that cozy, character-driven type of world that we have been all interested in lately, like the Sarah Beth Durst Spell Shop books. This is also in line with like Travis Baldree or Sangu Mandana, who I think wrote the book about the little witches and the
Oh,
nanny.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, this is the genre. So at the center of this book is Chao. She is a fortune teller who keeps her predictions very small. Love, weather, livestock, because she's learned that the bigger the fortune, the bigger the fallout or the bigger the disappointment with her clientele. So she has a mule for company, and she's really made peace with just having this very quiet existence, solitary life. She has a beautiful, like little tiny home in a wagon, and she just sets up shop town
Oh,
to
I love
town,
that.
and
I love
it's
that.
really cute. And of course, like when she sets up shop in a new town, um, she always offers tea first. Like if we're going to do a fortune telling session, we're going to have some jasmine tea and we're going to like collect ourselves and just be very civilized. Now, in this book, there's also some similarities in terms of like it's fantasy, but it's very clear that Tao is an Asian character and she's from a Asian country, and she is traveling in what would appear to be like an England type of country, and it's not common to see Asians. And so there's a little bit of that happening where people are like, "Oh, wow, you speak our language so well." Well, and she's of a different heritage or culture, but she grew up speaking the native tongue here. Anyway, so there's a little bit of the not necessarily racism, but just kind of some of the pressure that she gets often. Um, but everything really shifts in this book when Tao gets swept up in a search that slowly draws her into something she's really long avoided, which is connection. Along the way, she's joined by a reformed, not very, thief, a former mercenary, a baker with a hunger for adventure, and a slightly magical cat. And so this story is all about unlikely friendships, soft magic, slow, brave work of opening your heart again. And it's just beautiful. So
I absolutely love that. This plot summary sounds so good.
it's really cute. And then there's another one coming out in September, and that's all I know about it. So
I'd love you to be able to introduce this author to your brother.
oh yeah,
I think
absolutely.
they really have a lot of fun stories to share.
Yeah. All right, what's your next one, Mom?
Oh, I've got a good one for you, and it's 75 years old.
What? Oh,
You
we
can
are
find
like
it in
way
the library. You're not going to have any trouble. This book is called The Feast, and the author is Margaret Kennedy. This was published by Faber and Faber in 1950. And it is just as contemporary feeling as you can imagine. So
really.
it's the most ingenious plot. So so I was just engrossed, engaged the entire time I was reading it. So let me tell you, the main premise is there's a seaside hotel that is in Cornwall. And we find out right away that the seaside hotel has been demolished when the cliff that it was sitting on crumbled into the sea, killing everyone who was in the hotel at the time of this natural disaster. So here's the thing. Some of the guests were away on at a picnic. And at the time, when you're reading this, you don't really know who might have been in the hotel. You're told at the beginning the hotel is demolished and many of the guests perish. But as you're reading, half the fun is trying to pick out, well, who do you suppose was in the hotel? So here's the most ingenious thing about this book. The characters are all based on the 7 deadly sins.
I
The
love it
hotel
already.
is managed by a woman who's married to Sloth.
What?
That's not his name in the book.
Uh-huh. Okay.
That is the sin that he is personifying. And I don't know if you remember that. Do you remember any of the deadly sins?
Sure. Lust. Greed. Help me.
I'm putting you on the spot. Okay.
I know. I'm looking at your notes now. I'm going to cheat and look.
So the characters, besides Sloth, which we have already spilled the beans, that's the manager of the hotel.
I kind of get them confused with the 7 dwarfs. I know that sounds ridiculous.
Easy and dopey.
Sleepy. Yeah.
Okay. Pride, lechery or lust,
Okay.
greed, gluttony, wrath, and envy.
Envy's
So, going into the book, we know some of these characters are going to die, and we're introduced to them one after the other as they check in to the hotel. And this book was an absolute to
so
read.
there's like non-linear timeline happening here.
We hear of the disaster in the first chapter. It's kind of like a prologue.
Okay.
2 local clergymen are getting together for tea, and they're talking about this disaster that has recently occurred. So we know that the hotel that we're going to be visiting and learning all about, where the main story takes place, it's gone. It's been destroyed, killing the people who were inside the hotel at the time. So then the book starts, and we meet the woman who's trying to run the hotel and her slothful husband who's living in a cupboard off the kitchen, like a pantry. And he hardly ever comes out, and he never exerts himself in any way. He's just the laziest person you can imagine. And then the guests start checking in, and some of the chapters are correspondence between the guests and other people, and so we get to just truly understand their characters before we actually get to meet them when they check into the hotel. So we learn about them one by one, and it was just really, really fun to read this book.
That is incredible. I was just looking up to see whether or not this was made into a movie, and there are movies with the same title, but not the same. So
this is The Feast by Margaret Kennedy, published by Faber and Faber in 1950.
I can just see like Scarlett Johansson, in like with the 50s vibe, and like, I mean,
you might, this is great for Agatha Christie fans. It's
exactly
that kind of story where you think you've got it figured out, but just wait. You
man,
be surprised.
I want to read that too. Gosh, Mom, you're like 2 for 2. Okay.
And the book that I got, I can't find it. I tucked it away somewhere when I was cleaning, and but I'm going to find it. I bought a used copy on Pango, and this is the most beautiful cover. It's very the art style is very much like what you would see in the 1940s and 1950s.
Cool.
It's really evocative of
like
that
mid-century modern type of
vibes.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Anyway, I highly recommend it.
Wow.
If you can't find it at the library, I mean, 75 years is pretty old for a book. Do what I did and go on a used book site like Pango or some other site like that, and you could probably find a used copy.
I've been having good luck with Libby too, which is the library app that connects to your library system.
Yeah.
Okay, my book is by Gloria Chao. I actually just got up real quick to grab it. I'm in my jammies, y'all. So if you want to watch the podcast, you can see that. Okay, here's the cover. I'm going to hold this up. This is I think, a really cool cover.
Oh my gosh.
So we are looking at two young people, a boy and a girl. They clearly are not enjoying one another. There are red lanterns, cityscape. There's like a carnival behind them. So it's like a street fair. And so just beautiful artwork here. This book is called X Marks the Spot by Gloria Chao, Chao. And this is a fun one. So yes, this is YA. And so for those of you who have young people, or if you enjoy YA, then check it out. This is a very high stakes treasure hunt themed book, but so much more. So very heartfelt family story about a Taiwanese girl whose her mother has really done everything she can to just completely Americanize the daughter. So Gemma is our main character. She's 18 and she has just graduated high school. So this is a rivals to lovers slow burn. X Marks the Spot is a YA adventure where it's also full of clever puzzles. So if you like puzzles, this is a good one. And we travel to the vibrant and beautiful city of Taipei. So when Gemma learns that her grandfather, who she's never known while he was alive, has passed away back in Taiwan, and she's in America, and he has left behind a mysterious, quote unquote, inheritance. Gemma, is really poor. And so she's thinking, gosh, I hope it's money, because that would be helpful, because she did get into a college of her choice, but she has no idea yet how she's going to pay for this. She's really thrown into a journey that equals parts, emotion and also exhilaration. So to claim what might be hers, Gemma has to travel to Taiwan and enlist the help of her ex and longtime academic rival, Xander. Cue the tension. What starts as a reluctant partnership turns into a path toward uncovering long buried family secrets, not just with Gemma's family, but also Xander's family. Both families are connected. One is very well to do, one not. And there is a reason why. And what I love about this is that she is reconnecting Gemma with her roots in Taiwan. And there's a lot of food in this book too, which is why I enjoyed it. And she's also traveling with like a group of fellow 19 to 18, 19-year-olds. And they are more familiar with Taiwan and they have visited before. And so through their enjoyment and exhilaration of visiting old spots that they used to love to go to when visiting grandparents, Gemma, she's learning about the culture. She's learning about, especially in perhaps like Taiwanese culture, the food is what kind of brings everybody together. And that's true for all cultures, I think. But the stories and just the memories there are really important. So this is a really fun book. And I have also interviewed Gloria that last week, and our interview together will be, I think, posted maybe in 2 weeks from now. And what I loved talking to her about is the fact that she did all this research for these amazing puzzles that are throughout the book that Gemma has to solve. Gloria herself is an MIT graduate and just really incredibly brilliant, super nice, and also a world record curling duo with her husband. She's fascinating. So stay tuned for that.
Talk about multi-talented.
Yeah, she's
Do you think our almost 14-year-old Eva would enjoy this book, or is it too mature for her?
Absolutely. And actually, I mentioned this in the interview with Gloria that I was tickled about. Eva and I went to a book sale at the local library. Every Saturday they have a book sale. Okay. And Eva and I went to pick up some books. I picked up a copy of Circe because I don't have that one. And you've picked up everything you own, so I can't borrow yours. And so I got this book, and we're at the checkout, and Eva slides her book of choice onto the table, and it's called American Panda by Gloria Chao. So I was like, hey, I'm going to interview her. And Eva's like, really? Wow. So there you go. It's just kind of fortuitous.
Talk about serendipity too.
Right.
Oh my
Exactly.
gosh, I can't wait to hear your upcoming interview.
It's going to be fun. Yeah, Gloria's just delightful. And of course, I'm going to be in Boston next week, and Gloria had a lot of great recommendations for me to places to do and things to eat. So it was just lovely.
Terrific. Oh, well,
Yeah.
good job.
All right, what's your next one?
Well, I've got a 5-star book I'm going to be telling you about, and it's
Ooh.
not only was it 5 stars, but I know for sure it's going to be one of the top 10 of my top 10 of the year. This book, you've been hearing a lot about it on Instagram. It's called Broken Country by Clare Leslie Hall, published by Simon and Schuster this month on March 4th.
It's got a great cover, I think.
It has a beautiful cover. This story is going to stay with me for a long time. I read this book in 2 sittings. I ordered it from Book of the Month, and I had to wait for it to arrive. And I'm telling you, I opened that box and just like took the book and went and sat down in a chair and started reading it.
Wow.
There's a lot of hype about this book right now, and I don't know if that hype about books intrigues you and makes you interested, or if it puts you off and you think, you know what, it can't be that good. Well, the hype on this one is definitely very well deserved. It's set in a small rural English town and the time is between 1955 and 1968. The story follows Beth, who's a farm wife grieving the loss of her son, who is otherwise living contentedly with her kind and good-natured husband. Then her ex lover, the love of her life, moves back into town with his adorable young son. He is divorced from his wife, and his son is about the age that her boy would have been had he not died in an accident. So you're thinking, uh-oh, trouble is going to be a brewing, and you won't be wrong about that. The book contrasts the power and endurance of first love against the deep loyalty and affection that we feel toward an equally beloved spouse. I mean, this woman has major conflicts going on. And it's not at all trite or contrived or cliched. You'd think, oh, love triangle. We've been there, done that. This is, infidelity, maybe. I mean, it's not like that at all. This book shows you that love can take many, many forms. And the book paints a vivid picture of how tragic that can be sometimes when there are conflicts. The narrative possesses great emotional depth, and it left me, as many other people have also said, rather heartbroken, and took a while to get over this book. You've heard of the expression book hangover. When I finished, I read it fast too, like in 48 hours. And when it was done, my emotions were just all in a turmoil. This book really, really packs a punch. And I'd
Wow.
give it more than 5 stars if I could. It's so well written, so well done.
I am really interested in that. My book of the month, I got, you all get, when you're some sort of level of membership, you get a free book, like best book of the year. And I
Right.
chose, and this probably, Broken Country is probably going to be that, I'm predicting
Oh,
for,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
I can't grab it. It's the Wedding People.
Yes. That
Did
was
you read that one?
I loved that book. Do you know anything about it?
Nothing. I just was like, this looks good. So I chose that one.
So if you want, I can give you a very short synopsis of it.
Please, yeah.
So the main character has been quite poorly treated by her husband, and they've decided to go their separate ways. She's very depressed about this and has decided to end her life.
Oh,
And she goes to this hotel. She and her
I'm
husband.
holding up the book for those who are not
The cover
watching.
makes it. I don't know if I like the cover or not with this one. You'll have to read the book and tell me if you think the cover is a good fit. So anyway, she arrives at this hotel that she and her husband had planned to take a vacation to, and she still had the reservation. So she decides she's going to go by herself and she's going to end her life. She gets to the hotel and it's been completely taken over by a wedding party. And all these people are happy and they're all celebrating and it's a joyous occasion. And our main character meets the bride and somehow they have this very frank discussion, and our main character discloses her purpose of being at the hotel. And the bride says, "Oh, no, no, no. You're not going to ruin my wedding. Not on my watch. This is not going to happen." And so one thing leads to another, and all these characters get all entwined. And it's a wonderful contrast between someone who's in the depths of despair and a group of people that have everything to celebrate and new beginnings. And it's a really interesting.
How fun. That's
mashup of these.
a great juxtaposition.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, I'm looking forward to
And
that.
even though the beginning of the book touches upon suicide, we do move beyond that, and we don't focus on that very much.
Okay. Well, so, and before we talked about the wedding, what was it? Wedding people, yeah.
The wedding people.
We talked about Broken Country, and that was by Clare
Broken
Leslie
Country.
Hall.
Yes.
Okay. So my next book is called Significant Others. This is by Zoe Eisenberg, published by MIRA, MIRA, and this came out February 6th of last year. So I guess technically not a debut anymore, but still brand new. This is, as I said, Zoe's debut. This is a really interesting story. And again, I feel like this is contemporary literature, which I hardly ever read, and yay for me because I did it. I read like an adult grown-up book. Yay. This is a story that centers around like a friendship breakup. It's a very complicated female friendship, but it doesn't tip into melodrama. We have two young women who essentially have very similar backgrounds. They both have been orphaned. They went to high school together, and that's kind of one of the bonding things that happened. And we have Jess and we have Ren, and they've lived together since college. They're roommates now. They're in their late 30s, maybe probably late 30s, I would say. They're roommates. They co-parent a rescue dog, and they also co-own a house on the island of Hawaii. And so there's some nice island vibes here as well. But Ren gets pregnant after a one-night stand, and the two friends decide to raise the child together. But the relationship really starts to shift and they begin to drift apart. So this is told over the course of 9 months, and really explores what happens when two people who have always been on the same page just start to want different things. Now, as I said, this could get really dark. Like there's a lot of some sad things that happen. However, there's great characters in here that are really well developed, and they add a little bit of like light and maybe levity to the story. And Zoe writes with a very kind of like quiet precision. She's very good at observation. So she's good at looking at people and then developing a character and a voice for those people. She also this book is told chapter by chapter from Ren and then from Jess.
Oh, interesting.
And they are wildly different people, which is very interesting as well, to like, how do you keep those narratives straight and the perspectives of what is actually happening straight? Does that make sense? Like told by two very different people, the same situation, but different feelings and different observations about what's happening.
She's a talented author to make those differences really apparent so that you can tell immediately what voice you're listening to.
I was really quite impressed. I also know that Zoe is a screenwriter as well, and
Mm.
that is very, very difficult to write for films. And so she, like I said, she is very talented. I gave this 5 stars. The ending was not what I wanted. However, that's okay.
All
I'm
right.
still giving it 5 stars.
All right.
So yeah,
Say
and that
the
was
name, the title again.
Significant Others. And the cover is also very beautiful. You have to look it up. It's by a Hawaiian artist named Punky Aloha, who has beautiful artwork as well. So
Hey,
just
all
check out Significant Others by Zoe Eisenberg.
right. Well, my next book is one that I just finished yesterday, and it was a really good one. It was called The Jackal's Mistress, written by Chris Bahjalian and published by Doubleday on March 11th, 2025. So this was another one that's just brand new, hot off the press. Chris Bahjalian is a real favorite author of mine. He's quite popular and he's got a huge backlist. And some people claim that he seems like he's too commercial, but he
Mm,
is so varied in the topics that he tackles. I mean, you wouldn't believe the last book that he wrote had to do with an impersonator who worked in Las Vegas. The one before that was about some Hollywood stars in the 30s who were on a safari in Africa. And this book is set during the Civil War. So this man his talents are just phenomenal. And the research that he puts into his books and the settings is quite comprehensive. Anyway, I've enjoyed just about everything I've ever read from this very prolific and talented author. Anyway, this is a work of historical fiction, and it concerns a woman in Virginia, Libby Stedman, who's just barely keeping things together as she runs the family grist mill with her teenage niece and 2 freed slaves toward the end of the Civil War. Where they live is in the Shenandoah Valley, and at the end of the Civil War, it has technically been occupied by the Union forces, but there's still quite a strong Confederate contingency that is very much present, and so there are still battle skirmishes going on, but the Union Army is in charge of things. And every single bit of flour that she manages to mill in her grist mill, the Union Army confiscates and takes away. So
oh gosh.
they're hungry. Her husband is off fighting for the Confederacy because at the beginning of the war, that was Virginia's affiliation, was with the Confederate side of things. And the last her husband, Peter, has been heard of was from a prison camp, and she thinks he's dead. And she works with the last thing he did before he went off to war was to free all of the slaves on their plantation. And an elderly couple, Sally and Joseph, decide to stay and work for pay and live in the overseer's house. I'm so sorry. And help Libby run the grist mill. So one day, Libby discovers a very badly injured Union soldier. His injuries are terrible. He's lost a leg
Mhm.
and badly damaged his left hand. He's very close to death. And Libby's conscience tells her if this were her husband, she would really hope that a kind woman, even if it wasn't, a Confederate woman, would care for him. Even if it was a Confederate woman, that she would care for her husband. Libby gets this poor man to her home, and she and her freed slave companions nurse him back to health. But they're keeping this all in deep secrecy because the local Confederates, if they find out he's there, they will kill him and probably hang the former slaves and take Libby off to do heaven knows what else to her. So the book was really suspenseful. And what was interesting is that this story was actually based on real life events.
Oh, wow.
A Confederate woman who discovered a badly injured Union soldier and decided to help him and nurse him, even though the consequences for her doing so would be quite dire. So I really was on the edge of my seat, even though I kind of had an idea where the book was going.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very well executed. I highly recommend it.
Fantastic. Okay. Yeah, that's going to be a good one as well, I think, for anyone who really enjoys, historical fiction and of course that era as well. So, okay. My next book is Bad Publicity by Bianca Gillam. This is a debut book. This is from Penguin and out on May 20th. It actually is already out in the UK. And this is a rom-com. It has a very witty, slow burn. It's packed with some banter, some baggage, and just the right amount of chaos. So we have Andy. She steps into her dream role as a senior book publicist. So books about books. We love that topic. And she's ready to crush it until she finds out her first big assignment is managing a European book tour for her old college nemesis and former lover, Jack. And he's super charming now and super successful, which is also irritating. And of course, still maddening, I can't say this word. Anyway, he's still cute. So this is a problem for poor Andy. He is the last person that she ever wanted to see. So she's forced to work side by side with him across some of the most romantic cities in Europe as they go on this book tour together. Again, she is his publicist. She's determined to keep things professional, but she's got a lot of deep old wounds and unresolved tension that really bubbles up. So it's fun, it's sharp, it's full of heart. This is full of also cozy little bookshops and cafes throughout Europe and England. Super fun. So that is Bad Publicity by Bianca Gillam.
Sounds like a good one.
Absolutely. All right. So now we're going to talk about duds, books that we read this month that just didn't do it for us.
Go first.
Do you want me to go first? Okay. All right. So I am going to say that the book that I just spoke about, Bad Publicity, didn't really do it for me. It is, but again, I want to say that this is just me, and I do want to recommend this book because it is very fun. What I felt though was that our main character was very angry throughout the book, and we also don't really learn until like the very end of the book what it is that she's mad about with this.
That's frustrating.
So it is frustrating. And so I had a hard time with that aspect of it. However, there's lots of fun, cute side characters. Again, the writing is very well done. The author is very talented. For me, I didn't find Andy to be likable. However, the author really wanted to have this type of character have a voice. So there are, this happens in our lives where we develop these grudges, we develop, maybe it's unhealthy as well, but like built up anger that we don't resolve. And it does eat away at us and it makes us bitter. So for me, that is why Andy is unattractive as a character. She's bitter. And she also behaves badly and snarky because she's angry. And it's okay to be angry. So I felt a little polarized about this book because while it is super cute, there is a dark anger with this main character. And so yeah, just maybe this will be for you and maybe it won't. But I do think it's worth picking up because the author as well is a former publicist. So there's a lot of great insight into the publishing world and a nice little peek, behind the curtain. So, yeah. All right. What
Well,
about you?
my big disappointment was a book called Penitence, which was a debut novel by Kristen Kovacs, published by Celadon, January 28th, 2025. And I hate to be really harsh with a debut author, but I'm going to be.
Okay.
I'd classify this book as a family drama. When you look up a book on Goodreads, they have different categories that they list after the
Yeah.
book describing what genre it is. And the third classification that they give this book is thriller. And this book is
Thriller.
absolutely in no way, sense, shape, or form a thriller.
Okay.
It's a family drama. So as the book begins, the first thing we find out is that we learn that 13-year-old Nora has shot and killed her older brother, Nico, who was suffering from an ultimately fatal disease. These two siblings adored each other. They were super, super close. And now one of them is dead, and the other one says she shot him, and she's found with the shotgun in her hand. So you were talking about characters and their voices, their personalities, their motivations.
Yeah.
If their motivations are clear, then you have a better chance of understanding them and relating to them and not finding them unlikable.
As ugly as they, yeah, exactly.
And this author failed to do that. So we've got this situation. This is a terrible, terrible thing. The parents are devastated and just totally in shock. They hire a family friend who's also the former boyfriend of the children's mother.
That's already like a problem. You can't
As
have.
their attorney. I know. Well, it gets way worse.
Okay. Conflict of interest there, but all right.
So exactly. The story was extremely slow paced to begin with. I mean, you've got this horrendous event that starts off the book, and then it just starts dragging and dragging and dragging. There were parts of the book that were so unbelievable that my credibility was it just could not stretch that far.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. This 13-year-old child is being charged as an adult.
That does happen in some cases. In some states, that does happen.
I just couldn't believe it. I mean, this is a child. And we don't know her motivations. The author never lets us inside this girl's head to have insight as to her motives or what would cause her to commit such an act. Okay, first of all, she and her brother were very close. They loved each other. He is suffering from a disease that is ultimately, it's Huntington's disease, which is similar to Lou Gehrig's disease, and that it's gradually debilitating until you can't even swallow anymore.
Is it that the reader is supposed to assume that because she loved him, she just put him out of his misery?
It's never clear. The people who are prosecuting the case assign all kinds of bad motives to this child for doing such a thing. Nobody seems to look upon her with any kind of sympathy or curiosity as to what in the world she was going through. So the other thing was that the main adult characters were incredibly annoying.
Yeah.
There was Mom Angie, the lawyer whose name was Julian, the ex-boyfriend, lover, the father David. They were all weak and they were all flawed, but not in a way that elicited any sympathy from me anyway.
Mm.
And the conclusion of the book was totally depressing and also somewhat unresolved. And the book had great possibilities. I mean, I love a family drama. Bring in the courtroom drama. I'm there.
Sure.
I'm a big fan. And I just thought this book was just a miserable failure in its execution. And I'm in the minority. This book has a really high rating on Goodreads and glowing reviews. So I don't
I was
understand the hype, but this book was not for me.
I was just thinking about how I did not care for the God of the Woods book, and it's like the book of the year, and here, there, and everywhere, and I
Yeah.
just didn't like it, and I felt maybe like there's something wrong with me, and I did go look at the Goodreads reviews, and there are a small handful of people like me who didn't like it for the same reasons I didn't like it. So that makes me feel slightly more normalized. But there are just times where, the general population loves a book. I don't understand it. I don't understand why.
Now, I loved The God of the Woods, as you know, but there were some pacing issues. And if you are a person who wants to, let's get on with the story.
Yeah.
It
And I
was,
just felt the characters were unlikable. I didn't care. I do not
yeah,
care.
I can sometimes often I can get beyond an
Okay.
unlikable character, especially if there's some kind of change that occurs during the course of their, the
Yeah.
story arc. But in this book, I just thought it was everything was unbelievable.
Mm,
That the
I
old
think,
boyfriend would be called in to try to be their attorney,
yeah.
that this kid was just stuck in the juvenile detention
Yeah.
facility and never let home on bail. I mean, she was a child. She wasn't a threat to the community. I just didn't believe it.
Interesting. It would be really interesting to understand if this author also, like, is this based off of something that really did happen?
I
It'd be interesting to know. But well, okay, so those were downers. Let's talk about before we wrap up. Anything you're looking forward to besides new carpets?
Well, I'm doing something kind of interesting right now. Um, Sarah's daughter, my granddaughter, Eva, is struggling with a book assignment that she's been
Oh,
given in 8th grade.
let's talk about that
All right.
because it's been a week.
So Eva has been assigned to read a book called Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. And this book is actually an excellent book. It is
I can
designated
read.
as young adult, but in my opinion, it is for high school students or, 18,
Yeah.
19-year-olds. There's a lot of history in it. It's set during at the end of World War II.
Can I read the
When,
synopsis?
yeah,
Would that be okay? Just if that would be easier. So this came out in 2016. Uh, while the Titanic and the Lusitania are both well-documented disasters, the single greatest tragedy in maritime history is the little-known January 30th, 1945 sinking in the Baltic Sea by a Soviet submarine of the Wilhelm Gustloff, a German cruise liner that was supposed to ferry wartime personnel and refugees to mostly Prussian and Latvian refugees to safety from the advancing Red Army. The ship was overcrowded. More than 10,000 passengers died, including men, women, children, etc. And this is based around four fictionalized but historically accurate voices to convey the real life tragedy. Joanna is a Lithuanian nurse. Florian is a Prussian soldier fleeing the Nazis. Amelia is a Polish girl close to the end of her pregnancy. And then there is Albert, who is a sociopath and Nazi soldier. So we get the story from all of those four perspectives.
yeah.
Okay.
I think the theme is rather adult. I mean, there are lots of
Mentions
horrendous
of rape. I mean,
atrocities that take place, rape of a teenager. I mean, it's kind of heavy duty topics for a naive kind of innocent 13-year-old.
I would also say that Eva is very young for her age. She's in 8th grade, but
Yeah.
we didn't like hold her back because of her age. She's usually the youngest in her class. And I think in this case, if she were reading this a year from now, she might have a better time of it. Does that make sense?
Yes. And the book is made up of short chapters, but each chapter is from a different point of view. And I decided to read this book along with Eva in an effort to, you know, be able to make conversation with her about it and hopefully help her have the book make more sense to her, because she was struggling with it. At the beginning, I found it quite confusing because there were so many characters that were in
Mhm.
this group of
Oh,
refugees.
I keep getting them all mixed up. And then there's like some side characters. One is named Eva. There's another, I mean, there's like, and
There was
Ingrid.
a blind
Yeah.
girl named Ingrid. Anyway, there were so many characters, and it took me a minute to get into this book. But I'm telling you, I'm probably 65% through it at
Mhm.
this point, and it's a really well done book. It's
It's
a great
just,
book, but it's
it's
not
very
for
sad.
13. Oh,
It's,
it deals with absolutely awful
it's just
subject matter.
completely no fun start to finish, which of
Oh, there's
course
not a thing in it that's fun. No, not one.
that's what war is. And this is again, very realistic, and
Not
it has
make you smile on any level
a
whatsoever.
terrible ending. That is true. I mean, it's a dire
So
subject.
I'm reading it, and I can see it's a really well done book. It's won multiple prizes. I don't know if it's been made into a movie. I don't think it's been made into a movie, but
I, I
it's
wouldn't want to watch
considered
it.
one of the author's best works, and she is a
Yeah.
very well-regarded author.
So Eva is doing a little bit better with this, thanks to mom. I also, the week previous, was trying to help her study, but I get this is just, it's not my wheelhouse. I guess teaching this type of subject matter is not what I do best. And there's some challenging vocabulary that she had to learn as well. That's in this book. So anyway,
Well,
that's
also
what,
the historical period is something that she's not familiar with. She has not had
yeah.
in-depth study of World War II at this point in her life. I mean, she was asking me to tell her about tell me about the Third Reich. What is that?
Yeah.
And she
It's
she was really
complicated.
at a disadvantage as far as the subject matter of this
Yeah.
book is concerned. But she's a bright kid, and she's curious, and she's willing to work hard, and she's rallied. She's getting a
Yeah.
grip.
Yep. She is. It's been hard though. Anyway, anything else before we wrap up?
I'm just starting Wild Dark Country, which is kind of a dystopian book about a family that lives in Antarctica, and they are in charge of a seed bank. The world has
Oh,
just
yeah, yeah.
climate change has just changed everything, and the world is mostly covered with water, and it's just inhospitable for growing things. But they're hoping that if things ever change, that these seeds that have been preserved could be the hope for humanity to start over. And I've just gotten into this book, and it's a very isolated place. Nobody's really there. There were researchers there, but they've gone
Wait,
elsewhere.
what is this called again?
Wild Dark Country, I want to
I
say.
feel like I've read this.
It just came out. It just it was another March book.
Huh. I just read something very similar, only it's not like all water, but everything is iced over.
Oh, okay. Well,
But mm,
a strange woman washes up on the shore, and there's no explanation really about who she is, where she came from. So, as I say, it's early days, but it's an intriguing concept. So I'm on board.
wow. Well, I am reading where did it go? So, the Morisaki Bookshop, or Days at the Morisaki
Oh
Bookshop.
yeah.
This book, it's a novella, like for anyone because it's been a while since I've talked about a Japanese author, and I'm just getting into it. It starts with a girl whose life is just kind of going down the drain, and her uncle says, hey, like, why don't you just come stay with me at my bookshop? He's in a book district in Tokyo, which I didn't know that was a thing. I hope that's a real thing.
It
Because
is.
now oh
It
gosh.
is.
Why
And
did I
there's
not?
more than one book. I have to tell you, I think there's at least 2 books.
Well, I have the second one as well. And because I think somebody, maybe you gave it to me for Christmas. So I'm getting around to reading them. And I do want to preface, like, people are about the comments about this book are like, oh, this was supposed to be a book, bookshop book. And it's only a bookshop book for like the first 40. And then the other 60 is just more about like this main character's life. And she moves on from the bookshop. And I think people are really disappointed about that. So,
Yeah.
however, it's a lovely story about just, family. Again, connecting with family that's been distant, and you reconnect. So that right there is nice. So I'm looking forward to finishing. Cool. All right. Well, this was good today. We had a lot of great books that we talked about.
Yep. Thanks for putting up with my coughing fit. I'm getting over a really, really, really bad cold. And sometimes if I get excited and breathe too deep, it triggers coughing fit. I do apologize.
No, it's fine. Okay. Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Just a reminder, it would be super helpful if you could leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. That's going to help more people to discover and join the conversation about the books that we're talking about. And also, if you have an author recommendation or a book that you would love to know, my mom has read everything. So it could be that if there's a book you'd like us to talk about, she's already read it and we can easily talk about it. So let us know. And thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye, Mom.
Bye.